California, the Golden State, a land of dreams and opportunity. Yet beneath its shining facade, a deep rift has formed, threatening to tear the state asunder. From the sprawling urban centers to the rural heartland, a chorus of discontent echoes. Is California too big to govern? The idea of splitting California is not new. For decades, proposals have surfaced, each aiming to carve out new states from the Golden State's vast territory. These movements, driven by a potent mix of economic anxieties, cultural clashes, and political frustrations, expose the raw nerves of a state grappling with its own identity. At the heart of this debate lies a fundamental question. Can a state as diverse and expansive as California effectively serve the needs of all its citizens? The answer, increasingly, seems to be a resounding no, fueling the flames of secession and igniting a battle for the soul of California. The chasm between rural and urban California has never been wider. On one side, bustling metropolises, centers of innovation and economic power, set the pace for the state. On the other, rural communities, often overlooked and underserved, struggle to make their voices heard. This disconnect is palpable in the halls of power, where urban lawmakers often prioritize policies that resonate with their constituents, leaving rural communities feeling ignored and marginalized. From environmental regulations to gun control, the concerns of rural Californians often clash with the priorities of their urban counterparts. This disparity extends beyond politics, seeping into the economy, education, and healthcare. Rural communities often grapple with limited job opportunities, struggling schools, and inadequate access to healthcare facilities, further fueling their sense of alienation. The result is a growing resentment, a belief that the state government no longer represents their interests. The State of Jefferson movement, a recurring theme in Californian history, embodies this rural frustration. Named after Thomas Jefferson, the movement advocates for the secession of rural counties in Northern California and Southern Oregon, forming a new state with a shared identity and set of values. First emerging in the 1940s, the movement has waxed and waned over the decades, fueled by economic downturns, perceived government overreach, and the ever-widening urban-rural divide. Today, the State of Jefferson movement is experiencing a resurgence, capturing the anxieties of rural communities who feel increasingly disconnected from the California they once knew. Fueled by social media and a growing sense of political alienation, the movement has gained traction in recent years, attracting support from residents who feel that their voices have been drowned out by the urban majority. Whether this renewed momentum can overcome the formidable obstacles to statehood remains to be seen, but the sentiment behind it underscores the deep divisions within California. Section 4, the conservative argument empowering local voices. Conservative think tanks have played a significant role in amplifying the calls for California's division. They argue that smaller, more homogeneous states lead to greater political accountability and responsiveness to citizens' needs. Their argument centers on the principle of subsidiarity, the idea that governmental decisions should be made at the lowest possible level, closest to the people they affect. In their view, California's massive size and diverse population make it impossible for a single government to effectively represent the interests of all its citizens. Conservative thinkers point to the potential benefits of smaller states, arguing that they foster greater civic engagement, encourage more competitive elections, and limit the influence of special interest groups. By bringing government closer to the people, they believe citizens will have a more direct say in shaping their own destinies. Section 5, the constitutional case, a right to self-determination. Proponents of California's division also point to the U.S. Constitution, arguing that it implicitly grants states the right to self-determination, including the right to secession. They cite Article 4, Section 3, which outlines the process for admitting new states to the Union, as evidence that the framers envisioned the possibility of states dividing. However, this interpretation of the Constitution is highly contested. Opponents argue that the Civil War definitively settled the question of secession, establishing the indivisibility of the Union. They contend that Article 4, Section 3 only grants Congress the power to admit new states formed from existing territories, not from states already within the Union. The legal debate over California's right to secede is complex and nuanced, with compelling arguments on both sides. Ultimately, the question of whether California can legally divide would likely be decided by the Supreme Court, a prospect that adds another layer of uncertainty to an already contentious issue.